the surprise that we're looking for is an animal that's very, very good at hiding. And somewhere around here is a spotted cat called a leopard. Now, can you see him anywhere? Because I can't see him anywhere. I can't see any sign of him. Shall we sneak forward and see if we can spot him? But are you all looking closely? Are you all looking very, very carefully? So we're going to go see if we can spot where this leopard is hiding. So, if it's a hot day and there's a leopard, where do you think a leopard might be hiding? Do you think it would be lying in the sun? Because I don't think so. I think a leopard would be probably lying in the shade. So where would be a good shady spot? I think that looks like a good shady spot. Shall we have a closer look? Have you seen him yet? Because I can see him. There we go. Look at that. We found him. Isn't that special? A young leopard resting up in the shade. Imagine how difficult that leopard would be to spot in the long grass. Difficult for us to see from where we were. Now, Tristan, sorry, did you say do pandas live here? Did I hear that correctly? Oh, panthers. Oh, sorry, Tristan. I was going to say, no, pandas definitely don't live here, but you want to know if panthers live here. A panther is actually the name given to an animal with melanism, either a leopard or a jaguar. And melanism is a type of, basically not a condition, but a type of different chromosome or different DNA that makes the animal all black instead of having spots. So in a way we do get panthers here because we do get melanistic leopards, which are black leopards, so they look just like the panther in the Jungle Book. And we don't see them all that often, but there are recorded cases of completely black leopards hiding out in certain parts of South Africa. So yes, we do get, oh, look at those big teeth. We do get something that's very, very similar to a panther. But we don't see them here. I have never ever seen one before. That's how rare they are. You hardly ever see them because it's quite rare for them to have that genetic condition. Isn't he lovely? Enjoying the shade. Mackenzie, you want to know if leopards are endangered. Mackenzie, they are threatened. They're not endangered yet, which is wonderful news. We don't want them to be endangered. And we suspect that there are quite a few leopards that hide out. It's very difficult for us to know exactly how many leopards there are because they can be so hard to find. And if a leopard isn't used to people, birds are calling, if a leopard isn't used to people, then it will hide away as soon as it hears people. So some of the researchers are focusing really hard on trying to figure out exactly how many leopards there are. We definitely... Tatum, you want to know why do they have spots? Just hold on, Tatum, 1 second. I want to show you something. I just want to warn you, it's not a very pretty scene, but there is something there. Okay, we're not going to look too long. That is the leopard's lunch over there, so we're not going to look too long at it because I know for some of you it might make you feel a little bit sick. Now, Tatum, that goes into why leopards have spots. It's because they are so good at hiding away and camouflaging themselves that the spots actually help to break up their outline. So imagine a leopard is walking through some thick grass or some thick vegetation, and the sun is only just shining through the trees. And it basically hides the leopard away really, really well. And you saw how hard it was for us to see where he was hiding. Well, the same applies to, or that's the reason why they have spots. Now, why is that connected to his lunch? Well, it's because that's how leopards hunt. Now, he is a wild leopard. He lives completely on his own, which means that he has got to hunt and catch his own food. I have to say, I'm astounded at what he's hunted and caught. Really, truly astounded. Now, Victoria, you want to know, what do leopards eat? They eat meat. So that was an antelope that he's obviously caught at some point in the last day or so, which I'm quite astounded by as well. But that is an impala that he caught. So leopards have to eat meat, they can't, and they catch their own food. So that's what leopards eat. Antelope, scrub hares, monkeys, birds, anything that they manage to catch. Now he's very sleepy. He's got a full belly. Now he's been a very clever boy in that he's put his kill up in a tree. And the reason that he does that is to protect it from scavengers. So he wants to make sure, because he's worked really hard for this meal, he's had to sneak up on the impala and catch it and then drag it all the way over here. So he wants to make sure that nothing comes to steal it. So he's tried to put it as high up as he can, and now he's a very tired boy, fast asleep in the grass. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to turn around so that we can get a slightly different view of him, and maybe even he'll let us sneak a little bit closer so we can see him properly. While we do that, let's go across to Taylor, who's found something that might make you feel a little bit creepy crawly. I haven't even properly introduced you to Hosana. Been busy telling you about the leopard, but I haven't actually told you about this particular leopard, who is currently sleeping off what I can only describe as the fullest belly I've seen in a long time. You know, when you have a big Sunday lunch or perhaps a big holiday dinner, and you just feel so full of food that you actually can't move and you have to kind of lie on the couch? That is what Hosana's feeling like right now. He's eaten a big meal and he's feeling really warm and quite puffed out, actually, quite exhausted. Our Hosana is only 15 months old, so he's just a little bit older than a year. And the fact that he's managed to catch and kill his own young impala ram is truly extraordinary. I'm very, very impressed with him. He is a big boy for his age, though. He is quite a powerful leopard. And one day he's going to be a very, very impressive male. Marisol, you want to know, well, how big do leopards get? Depends on if they're a male or a female. Hosana means little chief, and he is a male. And his sister, Shongile, is a female. Now, a female leopard will probably not get much bigger than around about 50 kilograms. Probably, usually in this area, a little bit less. And the males can get anywhere up between about 80 to 100 kilograms. So that's close to over 200 pounds in some cases. The biggest leopards that we know of are around about 90 to 100 kilograms, which is absolutely massive. That's basically double me. His father, or at least the leopard that we think is his father, his name is Tingana, and Tingana is a very, very big male leopard. Now, Hosana's got some years before he gets to be that big, and he won't be big enough to compete for a territory until he's at least 4 years old, and he's only just over a year old now. But it could take him even longer, and he might not reach his full size until he's over 7 years old, at which point he'll get a really thick dewlap around his neck, which is a flap of skin and muscle. Now for Raphael, you want to know if leopards ever attack lions? No, because as big as the biggest leopard gets, a lion is always bigger. So a lioness, which is much smaller than the male, a lioness will be at least 50 kilograms heavier than a male leopard, and much, much, much stronger. I've actually seen lions chase leopards before, and if they catch them, they will kill them. So a leopard doesn't want to pick a fight with a lion. If a leopard sees a lion, the first thing the leopard's going to do is try and climb as high up into a tree as they possibly can. Or else, if the lion hasn't seen them, run away. Because all predators will kill other predators. The only time a leopard might fight a lion is if they find lion cubs, in which case they will kill the cubs as long as mum is not there. Speaking of other animals, we, of course, are a type of animal. And Sienna, you want to know, will the leopards chase us? No. We're really lucky in that we've known this leopard pretty much since the day he was born. So he's become very used to us. He doesn't see us as food, and we've even been able to approach and sit with him on foot, which is very special and very, very rare. Most of the time, if a leopard sees a human being on foot, they'll get up and they'll slink away, and they like to be hidden, they like to be secret, they don't like to be seen at all. They will slink off into the distance somewhere, but they won't chase you unless it is really desperately hungry or it's nighttime. At nighttime, it's very different. At night, leopards are much more dominant, and you definitely don't want to meet one in the dark. Matthew, you want to know what would happen if I got out of the Jeep right now? I've said that Hosana is comfortable with people on foot, but because he's got his kill here, he's going to be feeling extra protective about it, and I'm very, very close to him, so he hasn't seen me coming from far away. My guess is this is what he'll do. He would stand up, he would hiss and snarl and probably growl at me, and make quite a big scary sounding growl, sort of brrr, and then he'd get up and run away. Because even though he's strong enough to catch a male impala, he's still going to be scared of me, and he's going to be very confused by my behavior because he's used to us sitting in the vehicle. So I would never ever do that to him, because it would actually be really disrespectful, and it would be abusing the position that I'm in. This is his home, and he's let me get this close to him because he believes that I'm not going to hurt him or scare him. If I got out of the vehicle now, that's exactly what I would be doing, and I don't want to do that. These cubs are so comfortable with us. It would be such a shame to wreck it. It would be a terrible thing, a terrible selfish thing. Now, Sophia, you can see he's found himself a comfortable patch of grass. You want to know, are there other places where leopards sleep? Yes, absolutely. Sometimes they sleep in the sandy parts of a dry riverbed. Sometimes they find themselves a really nice place underneath a thick bush, like that weeping wattle that Taylor showed you. And sometimes they sleep in trees. And they're actually quite picky about which trees they sleep in. They like to sleep in trees without thorns, which I guess if I were a leopard, I'd also want to sleep in a tree without thorns. That makes total sense. So these sorts of trees make a perfect hiding place for a leopard. Our leopard will sleep in a tree when it's really, really hot outside, because then they've got shade, and then they've also got the nice breeze that might not touch them otherwise if they were sleeping on the ground. But right now, he feels safe enough and comfortable enough that he will sleep on the ground itself. That is marvelous. What a special surprise you were, Hosana. I don't think you have any idea. I'm really happy to see him because I haven't seen him in a long, long time. So I'm happy, or at least not properly. So I'm happy to spend a bit of time with him. Oh, that piece of grass was tickling his ear, and he just shifted his paw to get it away from his very sensitive ear. And you can see he flicks his ear every now and again. That's because the flies are sitting on top of it and they're biting his skin. And that's why he keeps flicking his ears to get them off. And those of you with very keen eyesight and very good observational skills might even see that there's a tick inside of his ear as well. Hosana's not going to be doing much, not with that massive belly. In fact, I think he's planning on sleeping the afternoon away, as all good teenage boys should. Apparently, Taylor's dying to show you something.
Well, let's hope so, but not quite. But we have got a little view of him at the moment. There he's lying in the long grass, breathing quite heavily, and he's probably full, and that's why. So I think he's just resting. But I'm hoping that we get to see him move up this tree and go and feed a little bit later. That would be wonderful to see. So we're sitting very, very patiently, just waiting. At least we can see him now. Now, I must be honest, having a look at this impala kill, and it looks, I think Jamie must have touched on it too earlier, but it looks like this kill was made yesterday, perhaps. But I think maybe what happened was he made the kill in probably hid the kill in the grass while he fed on it until he got rid of most of the meat and probably the stomach contents, made it a bit lighter, and then decided to try hoist it into the tree. So well done to this young leopard for doing that, because I think it's a huge learning curve for him. I think it might be, obviously with the mother, with the female, we saw them a number of times on a kill, and where they were knocking a kill out of a tree or trying to get it back up into a tree again. So all that was a learning curve for the young leopard, and learning how to hoist a kill or keep it in a tree. So it is amazing. I would like to have a better look at this leopard though. I'm sure all of you got it right. I don't know what a view you had earlier. Just to see if it definitely is Hosana. I don't know what view you had, so if anybody can tell me, is it definitely him, the young male? Okay, so it is definitely him, apparently. That's great. So that really is special. Norwegian Fennis, I hope I'm saying that correctly. I didn't hear the name properly, but the leopards can actually hoist, big male leopards can hoist rather large kills up into a tree. Now, I have seen a leopard in a tree with a young giraffe. I've also seen a male leopard in a tree with a buffalo calf. Now, a buffalo calf is much heavier than an impala, that's for sure. So something that size. I've seen an Inyala bull also up in a tree that a leopard hoisted. I think it all depends on, obviously, the size and the weight of the kill. Also depends on the tree. Is it easy to climb? Is it easy to hoist something into it? So it all depends. But something that size, a buffalo bull, or buffalo calf, rather, not a bull. Buffalo calf would, for them to hoist that into a tree is really, really powerful. That's a big male. Now, they'll probably be able to hoist something their own weight up into a tree. So maybe 60, 70 kilograms, quite easily. So that is really something. I'm going to sit here a little bit longer. Let's go back to Taylor and find out how a walk is going. Well, he's just lifted his head a little bit there, just moved his head. So good call, Taylor, but now he's put his head back down. So it's, it's just a patience game, or waiting game. And luckily, I'm very happy to sit and spend time with an animal like this, because I think that's often when you see the stuff that you want to see. Maybe him going up the tree, coming down. You never know when he's going to do it. But I find, and usually when I guide guests too, I do spend a lot of time in the sighting, especially with something like this with the leopard. Depending, unless we really think it's not going to move. But often the patience does pay off, and sitting with them and waiting, and especially for photographers, then you get the pictures that you really want. But let's see, he's starting to move around a little bit. He's a bit more active than he was earlier. Shauna, you'd like to know, how do the African leopards differ from the Asian leopards? Well, they're actually very similar, Shauna. They're very, very similar. I think size, slightly. I think the African leopards are a bit bigger. But in terms of behavior, and that, a friend of mine's worked in India before and did some studies on the leopards there. There, the leopards also really move in and out of communities a lot, in the cities and stuff. They've adapted to looking for food and that in and around the towns in certain areas of India, which is amazing. So the people almost live in harmony with some of the leopards. They do still have to be careful though, but I think the size is slightly different. And that's about it from what I know. I mean, the leopards are very similar, very, very similar. And I've seen pictures of the Asian leopards, the leopards in India and that, and they look almost identical. So I don't think there is much of a difference. Maybe a slight difference of subspecies. Francis Israel, now, I'm not sure, Francis, if you are from Israel or if your surname's Israel, but you asked how long will he sleep. Well, sorry, give me a second. I'll answer your question now, Francis. Go ahead. I don't have any other channels, Chris, sorry. Sorry, as I was saying, oh yes, how long does he sleep for? So he'll sleep for, well, they rest. They don't necessarily sleep. They'll rest for a number of hours, but they're conserving their energy for late in the evening. They're mostly active at night. However, I've seen leopards moving around during the day, and like we saw, I think how we found this leopard was he went for a drink at the dam. So, and that was much earlier this afternoon. So, it just shows they will move around during the day. They won't necessarily sleep, but they can rest for, I don't know, 10, 15 hours a day, resting. And then the rest of the time moving around and potentially trying to hunt. Well, let's wait and see if he does start moving for us, hopefully. Let's see, Jamie has got something large in the water she wants to show you. Now look at this, everyone. This leopard's up and is moving up the tree. Fantastic. Oh, perfect. It's paid off for us to sit and wait here. Yes, isn't this great? Wonderful. I'm just going to reverse slightly. Fergs, I'm sorry, let me just reverse a little bit so we can see more of that kill. How's that? Is that a bit better? That's cool, there we go. I just want to update my friend Chris quickly, because he is also interested in this leopard sighting. Chris for Byron. Now you see he's got it in a perfect position there to be able to feed quite easily. It looks like he's on that log, so he can lay down and stand up quite comfortably and feed on that kill. And that's again, that's well done to him for hoisting it in a tree like this. It's obviously much easier for him to climb over this fallen over branch, and I can stand and feed quite easily. Chris for Byron. Chris, this animal's up at the moment in the tree. Might be worthwhile coming back. Hey, firm, just myself here. Make your way straight in. Now, you know what? I wonder if I don't actually just try to change a little bit of our angle. Hold on, Ferg, sorry. I just want to try to see more of his face with him actually feeding on that. I'll keep you on that side of the car. Through there, perhaps, Fergs, is that a little bit better? I just wonder if... Is it? Okay. Those branches aren't in the way there. The joys of positioning a vehicle in a sighting to make sure we get the best view. Hold on. Sorry. There's some trees behind us. Don't worry, we're going to get a lovely view of this leopard feeding. Is that good? There we go. Oh dear. Christina, sorry, I missed the beginning of your question. Something with the hoisted impala. What was it, Alice? Oh, high enough. Okay. So, yeah, so Christina, the carcass, you know what? I think it is high enough that it won't be scavenged by hyenas. The legs are dangling down, but I wonder, you know what, a adult hyena could probably reach those legs, but you'd find he might try and hoist it a little bit higher. I think as long as he can try and get those legs up a little bit, hyena might be able just to get those legs. Oh, that's such a beautiful view of him now. So, Christina, I don't know. It's difficult. It looks high enough. It's difficult to tell from there. Like that position, completely high enough. The legs now, you can see they've lifted slightly. See that? And that's definitely high enough. No hyena will be able to reach that. Oh, this is what we're waiting for, everyone. See our patience paid off. Watching this leopard climb back up the tree and now start feeding. This is great. And it just goes to show you, you know, we always say, when we're out here and we sometimes think nothing's happening, but there's always something happening, and right outside camp. We're probably 300 meters from our camp, and there's a male leopard with a kill. So it just shows you that, you know, these leopards, all the predators in general, they are stealthy, they are very good hunters, and it's not easy for us to always see them, find them. But it just shows they have got kills, they are doing very well. I'm probably trying to get to some of the soft bits of that impala. Now, Chris Rogue, I'm not sure. You asked if Hosana maybe killed an unsuspecting loser of a rat fight with the males. I couldn't see if this was a full-grown male. I don't know if they're serious horns. I just want the leopard to try and move its head a little bit so we might be able to see. Did you have any view, Fergs? Did you see anything?
I saw a small horn, but I'm not...
Small horns, yeah. Let's see if I'll try and see if we can move the leopard. I'm joking, we're not going to move the leopard. Just hopefully he moves. We might be able to see. You know what? Those look like small horns. I don't think it was. I'm not sure. Oh, look at that. Isn't that beautiful? Now, Lavina, you asked if he would share with his sister. Now, I'm not sure. Usually, and I'll tell you what happens is leopards, I mean, they do feed one at a time. And the chances of the female arriving and going up and feeding now are almost 0 to none. There's no chance she would do that. He would act quite aggressively towards her, even though it is his sister. But if he was finished feeding and moved down the tree, if she was around and she was able to get up and feed, I think at this age, yes, there is a still small possibility that she would be able to feed and he would be okay with it. I think, again, because of the age. But soon he probably won't like to share his kill with anyone. Any other leopard. Chris Rogue, I just had a look at those horns. That's a young impala. That's not a rutting impala. That would not have been a full-grown male rutting. You can see the horns. They probably, this impala, I would guess, would have been born in November, December 2015, judging by the size of those horns. So it's a year and a half old. Getting some of the juicy bits around the head there. I can hear some of the bones crunching. I really am so impressed with this young male leopard. He's done very, very well to get this carcass. There's still a lot of meat on there for him to feed on. There's still the whole neck, shoulder section, most of the rump and that has been fed on in the stomach area. But there's still a lot of food there. Ali, now, what I've seen, and often what I've seen is with leopards, when they make a kill, the first thing they start doing is they'll start feeding on it. They'll generally start with the rump, the hind quarters. That's the softer meat, the easier to get to, and there's a lot of meat there. So they'll feed on that first. But then they do start picking away at the stomach, opening it up and possibly trying to get some of those stomach contents out. I've seen it before where they do scrape and try and scratch them out and then just not necessarily bury it, and we spoke about it earlier, I think James was asking, but they don't bury it, but they'll scrape sand over it or try and mask the scent of those stomach contents, and that's also then easier for them to hoist the kill if they make it a bit lighter by taking those stomach contents out. So they do that maybe after they've fed for a little while. If they're not too hungry, they might do that in the beginning. It varies somewhat from what I've seen. But yes, they will try and get the stomach contents out at some point, and then it will potentially be a bit easier to hoist. Again, it's so wonderful to see a leopard feeding in a tree. The balance and the ability to stand and feed on a carcass is just amazing. Well, I know what I'm going to be doing for the next hour, and that is sitting here enjoying this sighting. And you see, like I said, it pays to be a bit patient. We got to see the leopard wake up and then climb up the tree and go and start feeding. I feel a bit sad for some of the other people that passed by because they were here very briefly and then just decided to leave. Again, I've always said it. Guiding, you need to be patient, take your time. The other animals will come eventually, especially if you're out on a 3 or 4 day safari. Don't just rush from one sighting to another. There's no point in that. You're not really going to get the full experience, I don't think. It's good to sit and spend time with each animal when you do find them. Alright, well, like I said, I'm not going anywhere. We're going to see how much feeding this leopard does and what he gets up to. Let's go see what Taylor's up to on our walk. No, well, it's amazing that it just shows you how things can change in the bush. Now we've got 2 leopards to show you. A big male and then apparently his son. Well, we all seem to think so, and I do think Tingana is probably the father of this male leopard, this young male. And but they're quite far from each other, and it just shows you how large that big male leopard's territory is. Because they're probably a few kilometers from where we are on cheetah plains. Now it is interesting, I think if that male, the big male had moved into this area and smelt this kill, he would definitely scavenge it from his son. He would take it away and feed on it and probably chase his son off. This young male leopard, they do that from time to time. The big male leopards, if they find females with a kill or younger leopards with kills, they'll definitely chase them off and finish what's left. Look at those teeth. See, it's amazing how he started feeding on the skull. There's obviously some soft meat there that he's you can see, but he's really fed on most of the meat around the skull. And actually, that's a lovely view of him feeding there now. You see how he's using the side of his mouth to eat. You see that now. I've mentioned this a few times before. But it's the carnassial shear, the back teeth of the leopard. The molars and premolars overlap slightly, and they act as a scissor motion, so it's easy to tear and break down the meat. So that's what they use to chew some of the meat and tear it off. They will use their front teeth to tear open bits of the carcass, but they'll use those powerful back teeth to really eat the meat, and that's known as the carnassial shear. I'm going to sit here a little bit longer, but Taylor's got a beautiful sunset she'd like to show you quickly. Now, he's moved slightly, everyone. Have a look at him. He's just decided to change his position a little bit. He's been pulling that carcass. There, you see, he's got it by the neck, and he's just moving it slightly higher up into the tree, trying to reposition it. Getting another vehicle to reposition quickly. Oh, that's such a nice view of him. Look at that. Wow, that is beautiful. My friend Chris wanted to be famous there for a second, so he tried to get into the camera. No, that's beautiful. That is, see, now watch how agile he is moving around that tree. He's been positioning, moving that carcass a little bit higher up. That is really special. Look how well camouflaged he is up in that tree at the moment. He was trying to, like I said, reposition that carcass, but I don't think he had much luck. I don't know if he knows where he wants to put it. Now I'm not sure. I think I've lost comms with Alice here. Alice, if you want to link quickly, go for it. Okay, Alice, I got you there. What did you say? Sorry. Okay. Sorry, I just lost Alice there for a second. You see now that carcass is now hanging in a position that if a hyena had to come past, they would easily be able to pull that down from there. See that? So there's actually not much left of the kind of the hindquarters and the stomach area. You can see he's fed on most of that. That's why I say this kill was definitely made yesterday. I think possibly yesterday afternoon, maybe fed on it for most of the night and this morning. We'll have to find out from James why he didn't find this leopard this morning. I suppose he was in the tent, but that's no excuse, James. You can see he's cleaned up that skull quite a bit, and that's just by licking and chewing and eating parts of it. Like I said, there's some soft parts of the antelope there that they enjoy feeding on, probably a lot of nutrients. And it is a young male. You can see those horns again. So just as we thought, it's a young male. It's not a full-grown male that would have been rutting. Some of you were asking, do we think, was it males ratting that possibly got distracted and he managed to hunt one of them, but it's not a full-grown male, so he wouldn't have been ratting this young male. K4M0, it's a lot of little numbers and letters to remember. You asked, when will this leopard need to hunt again after he's fed on this impala? Well, they're very opportunistic, so it all depends. They could possibly hunt immediately afterwards if some impala came past. However, generally speaking, once he's finished this carcass, maybe 2 or 3 days before he decides that he needs to hunt again. Also, like I said, with them being opportunistic, they try not to get too hungry before they hunt again. But I would say that's an average after a big kill, 2 or 3 days, and then try to hunt again. Well, violet not necessarily, because they can feed on a carcass for 2 days, 2 or 3 days sometimes. A little bit of rotten meat doesn't really affect the leopards or any of the predators for that matter, like it would for us. So yeah, there's still good fresh meat there on that carcass, but parts of it are most likely starting to rot a little bit. But their digestive system's much stronger than ours, so it doesn't affect them like it would affect us. You see his belly's quite full too. Wow, this young leopard, I think, is very, very pleased with himself for making this kill. And as I was saying, everyone, and I think this is possibly the first time that young Hosana has made his own kill, or substantial kill. I mean, we know he's fed on little mongoose and terrapins and so on, and possibly guinea fowl or franklins that we maybe just haven't seen yet, but I think the first substantial kill, a large antelope, I think this is the first time. Please correct me if I'm wrong, but I do think so. A kill that he's managed to make himself. Now, from one leopard in a tree, Jamie's got another one. Well, Hosana is trying to get this kill out of the tree now. Oh, he just pulled it down. I don't know why. It's probably not that comfortable feeding up in the tree. So that's why he's decided to do that. Now, we did hear some other alarm calls, it sounded like, on the other side of the river, but I don't know. On the other side of the dam, rather, not river. Oh, there's some inyala behind us. You'll hear them barking. Just listen. Just for a second, just wait. So 3 female inyala and a male, just directly behind us. We're not going to show you now. Let's just watch the leopard and see what he does. But they gave little alarm calls, just a little bark. But they've stopped now. They've definitely seen the leopard. You see, this is actually a perfect little spot for him, because he's basically on a path leading directly down to the water for a lot of the animals that sleep up on the clearing. We've seen the wildebeest walking through here, impala, the inyala. So if I was a leopard, I'd hang around here for quite some time, because it's a perfect spot. Folks, shall I try and reverse a little bit? Let's just see. Hang on, let me try and get us another position quickly. Maybe if I can afford. Wait. Did you see them? No, it's alright. No, they're directly behind us now. How's that, folks? Is that a bit better?
Yeah, that's good.
Let's see. Well, Mercedes, you asked whose territory is Hosana in. Well, he's in the big male leopard around here is Tingana. That's whose territory he's in. So Tingana will tolerate this young leopard because it is his offspring. They'll tolerate him around for a little bit longer because he's not posing a threat. But often what happens is, even with male leopards, even if it is their offspring, when they get to an age where they're starting to look for their own territory, the dominant males, even if they are their fathers, will chase them out. Sorry, this branch, unfortunately, is directly in front of us, but we've still got a nice view of him. You can see feeding on some of those ribs at the moment. What a cool sighting. This is awesome. Okay, now Jamie's got Tingana again, so let's go back to another leopard. Well, you are so fortunate this afternoon, everyone, to be able to jump from one leopard sighting to the next. But young Hosana is still feeding on the ground, and some of you might be thinking, why did he bring this kill down? And again, I think it's purely because it's easier for him to lie down on the ground and feed here than it is to try and balance in a tree. And again, you can see him using that carnassial shear, those very sharp teeth at the back of his mouth, all the power with all the muscles. You can see broken ribs. So, Peter, well, first thing is how we can recognize some of the leopards and the difference between the two males that you've seen this afternoon. For one, the most obvious thing would be size. So that big male leopard, Tingana, is much bigger than this young male leopard. He's got a very prominent dewlap. Much thicker neck and head compared to this young leopard. Also, the ears are a good sign of age, perhaps, so you can see if it's an older leopard or a younger leopard. And the other thing is, then, if you really get into the technical side of identifying leopards, they've got a unique spot pattern. All of the leopards have got a unique spot pattern just above the whiskers. So you see that whisker line? You can actually see it there. So if you look at this beautiful leopard's face, as we are facing him, so it would be for us on the left-hand side, so he's right-hand side of his face, there'll be spots above the whiskers, and then on the right, on his left-hand side, or our right-hand side, looking at him, you can actually see he's got three very prominent spots just above that whisker line. 1, 2, 3, the big one at the back. So I'm not sure what he is on the left-hand side, but it could be a 2 or 3, so Hosana would be a 2-3 spot pattern leopard, for example. So each leopard is slightly different, so that's how we would then identify them. And again, a lot of people ask about the names of the leopards and identifying them. Generally, I find, and all of you know this about me, and I try and steer away a little bit from the naming of the animals, purely because I just enjoy seeing them. Doesn't matter if it's a male or female leopard, or old or young, but it is nice for a story, and it does obviously help us a lot on Safari Live. And all of you that have been viewing for a very long time, you get to know the animals, you get to see them fairly regularly, especially because they are so territorial. But I, especially when I'm guiding guests, we tend to stay away from the naming of the animals, because I just think it's wonderful to see an animal. It doesn't matter which one you see, unless you have got a story or people are going into that area regularly. Because other parts of Africa, if you see a leopard, it's just a leopard. There maybe not as many vehicles around or people viewing the animals every day. So then it's just a male leopard or a female leopard. But for the purpose of the show and that, and for the guides in the area get to know the movements of certain animals, it is nice to have a bit of a story behind them. Leonard, you asked, are the leopard spots distinctly inherited from their parents? Now, I'm not sure if you mean the spot pattern or just the spots in general, but that's just genetic. That's the way leopards are camouflaged. That's so it would purely be genetic, I would say, if that makes sense. But the spot patterns, obviously, those are all slightly different. Wow, there are a number of these little stink bugs around at the moment. That's not good. Don't want any of them. For some reason, there's plenty of them now. Tonight. Oh, quickly go and have a look at Tingana. So, Jamie, you're very fortunate that you've also got a leopard and you're going to follow him for a little bit longer. Now, everyone, we are going to leave young Hosana, and the reason for that is because he's pulled the kill down onto the ground. He is a little bit more exposed, and also we need to be respectful, and because of hyena. We don't want to shine the spotlights or have the vehicles around here too much at night, because that may draw attention to him and he could potentially lose this kill to hyena. We've had a wonderful, wonderful sighting with him, and I'm sure all of you would agree that we don't want to stay unnecessarily, and we always do this if kills, especially with young leopards, if they've got them on the ground, we don't shine the spotlights, we don't stay with them purely from a sensitivity point of view, because it will attract potential predators, other predators, and most likely hyena. So, but really, really wonderful sighting. I'm glad you all got to enjoy it with us. I'm so happy for this young leopard too. Really special. So Mario X, you just asked about that dew lap, that extra bit of skin around the neck of the leopard, and what age will he develop it? Well, generally with young leopards, you start seeing it from about 4 or 5 years old. You'll start seeing a thicker neck developing, and from what I've seen, that's also when leopards tend to try and set up territories for themselves, young males. So around about then. About 4 or 5 years old, and you'll see, but obviously the older they get, like Tingana now, what is he? I think he's about 10 years old or so, isn't he? 9, 10 years old. He's got a very prominent dew lap. Alright, well, Jamie's still trying to follow Tingana. I'm going to move out of this sighting, but what a wonderful, wonderful sighting with young Hosana. So, from Hosana to Tingana.